Welcome to Shadow Psychology Coded, where we confront the unvarnished truths about the modern male condition. We are here to diagnose a silent plague, a spiritual sickness that has infected the very soul of contemporary man. This is not a physical illness, but a psychological and existential one, a creeping malaise of the spirit that Friedrich Nietzsche prophesied with terrifying accuracy over a century ago. He called it the advent of the last man, the ultimate endpoint of humanity's descent into comfortable, pacified, and meaningless existence. And if you are watching this, feeling a vague sense of discontent beneath the surface of your seemingly normal life, a quiet voice whispering that there must be more to your existence than this endless cycle of consumption, distraction, and approval seeking. Then you have already felt the symptoms. The last man is not a monster. He is a ghost. He is the man who has everything he is supposed to want: the stable job, the comfortable apartment, the curated social media presence, the steady stream of entertainment, and yet he feels nothing. He is the man who blinks, who seeks only a little pleasure and a little comfort, who has made risk his greatest enemy and security his only God. He looks at greatness, at passion, at danger, and with a pitying smile says, "What is love? What is creation? What is longing? What is a star?" And then he blinks. This is the great modern crisis, not a crisis of resources or politics, but a crisis of the soul. We have built a world perfectly designed to produce the last man, a gilded cage so comfortable that most men never even realize they are imprisoned. They have traded their birthright of struggle, meaning, and sovereignty for a handful of digital likes and the warm blanket of societal approval. This cage has many bars, each one reinforcing the other to create an inescapable prison of the spirit. The first and most insidious bar of this cage is the digital dopamine economy. Your smartphone is not just a tool, it is a slot machine engineered to hijack your reward pathways. Every notification, every like, every scroll is a micro hit of validation that trains you to seek external approval over internal fulfillment. This constant low-grade stimulation creates a psychological state of perpetual distraction, making deep concentrated thought, the very kind of thought required for self-overcoming, nearly impossible. You are being farmed for your attention, and the currency is your potential. The algorithm does not want you to become a sovereign individual. It wants you to become a predictable, engaged user. It shows you what you already agree with, comforting you in your biases and shielding you from the disruptive ideas that could shatter your complacency. This creates a digital herd mentality, where your opinions are no longer your own, but a reflection of the curated reality presented to you. You perform a version of yourself online that you believe will be most rewarded, further divorcing you from your authentic self. The second bar is the cult of comfort and safety. Modern society has pathologized struggle. Difficulty, pain, and failure are no longer seen as essential teachers, but as system errors to be eliminated. From childhood, men are taught to avoid risk, to choose the safe path, to prioritize security over growth. The education system punishes unconventional thinking and rewards rote memorization. The corporate world values compliance and predictability over creativity and boldness. We have medicalized normal human experiences like sadness, anxiety, and discontent, seeking to pill them away rather than listen to the message they carry about our unfulfilled lives. This systemic aversion to discomfort has created a generation of men with atrophied resilience muscles. When a real challenge arises, a career setback, a relationship crisis, a personal failure, they lack the psychological fortitude to face it, often collapsing into anxiety, depression, or blame. The third bar is the erosion of transcendent values. In the absence of a shared, compelling purpose or a God to believe in, modern man has been left with a spiritual vacuum. This vacuum has been filled by what Nietzsche called passive nihilism, the belief in nothing, which leads to hedonism, cynicism, and a quiet despair. The modern substitutes for meaning are pitifully inadequate. The pursuit of wealth, which once acquired, often feels empty. The pursuit of romantic conquests, which become repetitive and meaningless. The pursuit of fitness, which can devolve into narcissistic body worship. Or the worst of all, the pursuit of happiness as a constant flatlined emotional state. This lack of a North Star leaves men adrift, reacting to life rather than directing it. They become consumers of experiences rather than creators of their destiny. The final symptom, the one that screams the loudest of the last man's victory, is the deep, pervasive sense of quiet desperation. It is the feeling you get on a Sunday night, looking at the week ahead, and feeling nothing but a dull dread. It is the feeling of scrolling through social media and seeing the highlight reels of others' lives, accompanied by a pang of envy and a question, is this all there is? It is the feeling of being a ghost in your own life, going through the motions, playing a role assigned to you by society, your parents, or your peers. You are not truly alive. You are managing your existence. You are not burning with purpose. You are smoldering with resignation. This desperation is often misdiagnosed as depression or anxiety. And while those can be real, they are often just the fever, the body's reaction to the deeper sickness of a soul that is not being used for its intended purpose, to strive, to overcome, to create, to will. The path out of this crisis begins with this brutal diagnosis. You must recognize the last man within yourself. You must see the ways you have traded your power for comfort, your authenticity for approval, your struggle for security. This is not a reason for self-flagellation, but for clarity. The first step in solving any problem is admitting that it exists. You are not weak for having fallen prey to this. You are human in a system designed to produce exactly this outcome, but to remain in it once you have seen it is a choice. The Nietzsche formula for the modern man is the antidote to this poison. It is a call to awaken from this spiritual slumber, to declare war on the last man within, and to begin the arduous, glorious work of becoming who you are. This diagnosis is the essential starting point. It is the moment you look in the mirror and finally see the invisible chains. And once you see them, you can begin the work of breaking them. This is the end of the beginning, the death of your complacency. The journey toward sovereignty starts now. The diagnosis is complete. You have stared into the abyss of the last man's existence and recognized his ghostly features in the reflection of your own life. You have identified the digital dopamine traps, the cult of comfort, and the spiritual vacuum that have held you captive. This recognition, though unsettling, is the fertile ground from which your rebirth will spring. For the antidote to this soul sickness, this quiet desperation, is not to be found in a new medication, a new productivity hack, or a new form of entertainment. The antidote has been dormant within you all along, a primordial force that society has systematically taught you to suppress, deny, and feel ashamed of. Friedrich Nietzsche named this force the will to power, and to misunderstand it is to miss the very heart of his philosophy and the key to your own liberation. This is not, as is so often crudely misinterpreted, a mere desire to dominate others. That is its most immature and vulgar expression. The will to power is the fundamental driving force of all life, the biological and psychological imperative to grow, to expand, to overcome resistance, to impose your form upon chaos, to become more than you are. It is the instinct that pushes a seedling through cracked asphalt. It is the fire that drives an artist to create beauty from pain. It is the discipline that allows an athlete to transform agony into excellence. It is the courage that enables an entrepreneur to stare into the void of uncertainty and build something from nothing. In every case, it is the act of overcoming. Your feeling of existential discontent, that nagging sense that there must be more, is not a sign of failure. It is the sound of your own will to power, screaming at you from the depths of your soul, demanding that you stop sleepwalking and start living. It is the fuel for the modern soul, and you have been taught to treat this high-octane fuel as a toxic waste product. The modern world has pathologized the will to power in men. Your natural ambition is labeled toxic masculinity. Your desire for mastery and competence is dismissed as obsession. Your drive to compete and win is shamed as being problematic. You are told to be softer, quieter, more agreeable, to shrink your presence and your aspirations to a non-threatening size. This is the ultimate castration of the spirit. When you suppress this fundamental drive, its energy does not simply disappear. It turns inward, festering and metastasizing into the very pathologies that plague the modern man: chronic anxiety, a pervasive sense of meaninglessness, passive aggression, and a deep simmering resentment toward those who seem to be living with more vitality than you. The feeling of being stuck is the feeling of a dammed river, a tremendous amount of potential energy with no outlet, slowly eroding its own banks. The first step in rediscovering your will to power is to perform a radical act of self-honesty. You must stop apologizing for your desire to be powerful. You must acknowledge that you want to have an impact, to command respect, to be a force in your world, to live a life that is significant rather than merely comfortable. This is not a sin. It is your birthright. It is the proof that you are still alive beneath the layers of social conditioning. Embrace this truth without flinching. The guilt you feel is not your conscience. It is the ghost of the last man, whispering his warnings of safety and conformity. You must exorcise this ghost. The practical reclamation of your will to power begins with what we can call the sovereignty audit. This is a daily practice of consciously seizing command over the micro-realms of your existence. It starts with your physiology. Your body is not merely a vessel for your brain, it is the physical manifestation of your will. When you choose to eat food that fuels your mission rather than merely placates your cravings, you are exercising your will to power. When you enforce a strict sleep schedule because your purpose requires a sharp mind, you are exercising your will to power. When you push through the resistance of a workout, embracing the burn as the sensation of your limits expanding, you are exercising your will to power. This is not about vanity. It is about building the physical foundation of a sovereign will. Next, you must audit your attention. Your focus is your most precious resource, the very substance of your consciousness. Every time you consciously turn away from a digital distraction, a notification, a meaningless scroll, a clickbait headline, and direct your focus toward a meaningful task, a book that challenges you, or a period of deliberate thought, you are performing an act of psychological sovereignty. You are declaring that your attention is too valuable to be auctioned off to the highest bidder. You are wresting control of your own mind, back from the algorithms designed to own it. Finally, and most critically, you must channel this reclaimed energy into a personal mission. The will to power without direction is chaos. It is a fire that burns without providing warmth or light. The modern man often feels his will to power as a restless, anxious energy because it has no object, no worthy challenge upon which to expend itself. You must give it one. This mission is not something you find. It is something you build. It is a goal or a purpose so compelling that it organizes your entire life around it. It becomes the filter through which you judge all opportunities, all relationships, all uses of your time. Does this action bring me closer to my mission? Does this person support or hinder my mission? This mission is the concrete expression of your will to power in the modern world. It could be building a business, creating a work of art, achieving a pinnacle of physical fitness, mastering a complex skill, or deepening your intellectual understanding of a profound subject. It must be difficult. It must demand something from you. It must involve struggle, for it is in the struggle itself that the will to power finds its greatest satisfaction. This mission transforms your existential anxiety into focused intensity. The vague dread about the future becomes specific problems to be solved. The envy you feel toward others becomes a source of data about what is possible. The quiet desperation is replaced by the roaring fire of a man who has finally found a game worth playing. You are no longer a passive consumer of a life designed by others. You are the active creator of your own reality. This is the rediscovery of your will to power. It is the moment you stop being a reactor and become a cause. It is the transition from being a problem to be solved, to being a force to be reckoned with. The fuel is now burning. The engine is roaring. Now you must learn to steer. This rediscovered power demands a new compass, a new morality, and that is the journey we embark on next. The reclamation of your will to power has ignited a formidable engine within you, but an engine without a navigation system is a potential force of chaos, destined to spin its wheels or crash. The modern world provides a ready-made navigation system, a pre-packaged moral compass of good and evil, inherited from religion, culture, and the ever-shifting sands of social consensus. This is the compass of the herd. It points consistently toward safety, conformity, and the approval of the crowd. Its good is altruism, humility, obedience, and meekness. Its evil is pride, ambition, self-interest, and power. To follow this compass is to guarantee you will never stray from the well-trodden path of the last man. It is the final, most sophisticated leash that binds you to a life of domesticated mediocrity. The third component of the Nietzsche formula for the modern man, therefore, is the most psychologically liberating and existentially demanding. You must move beyond good and evil. This is not a call to amorality or sociopathy. It is a call to the highest form of moral responsibility, the creation of your own values. It is the conscious, deliberate act of stepping outside the prefabricated moral cage and forging a personal code of conduct that springs not from fear of punishment or desire for reward, but from your own will to power and your own assessment of what is life-affirming, strength-giving, and authentic to your unique nature. This is the journey from being a moral subject to becoming a moral authority. This process begins with what can be termed the great unlearning. You must perform a ruthless and systematic audit of every should and should not that governs your behavior. This requires you to become a detective of your own conscience, interrogating the source of your deepest moral convictions. Where did this belief come from? Is it a relic of your childhood religion? An imprint from your parents? A value you absorbed from your peer group to fit in? A rule enforced by corporate HR culture? You must subject each of these inherited commandments to a single, brutal question. Does this principle serve my growth, my power, and my highest potential? Or does it serve to limit me, to make me manageable, to keep me small and compliant? You will discover with unsettling clarity that many of the virtues you were taught to aspire to are, in fact, sophisticated tools for your domestication. Humility, when not a natural expression of genuine confidence, is a demand to hide your light. Altruism, when not a voluntary overflow of your own abundance, is a demand for your sacrifice. Obedience is a demand for the surrender of your will. This unlearning is a terrifying and disorienting process. It feels like stepping off a cliff into a moral void. The solid ground of external validation disappears beneath your feet. But this void is not emptiness. It is a space of pure potential. It is the blank canvas upon which you, the artist of your own life, will paint your values. This chaos is the necessary precondition for a higher, self-authored order. From the fertile ground of this unlearning, you begin the constructive work of active value creation. This is where you become the architect of your own moral universe. You must ask yourself the most fundamental question: what do I deem truly valuable? Not what you were told is valuable, but what you have discovered through your own experience and introspection makes you feel more alive, more potent, more authentic. Is it courage? Define it not as the absence of fear, but as the will to act in spite of it, to speak the difficult truth, to face the consequences of your convictions. Is it authenticity? Define it as the relentless commitment to being your true self, to refusing to wear masks for social convenience, to expressing your unique perspective without apology. Is it mastery? Define it as the devotion to perfecting your craft, your body, and your mind, to pursuing excellence for its own sake, to embracing the grueling process of becoming a master. Is it impact? Define it as the drive to leave a dent in the universe, to shape your corner of reality according to your will, to create something that would not exist without you. These are not values you look up in a dictionary. They are principles you excavate from the depths of your own being. You must define them for yourself with surgical precision. What does courage look like in your daily interactions? What specific actions constitute authenticity in your relationships? Write these definitions down. This document becomes your personal constitution, the supreme law of your own being. It is a living text, subject to amendment and refinement as you grow, but it is the ultimate authority against which you judge your own actions. The practical application of this self-authored morality is sovereign decision-making. When faced with a choice, you no longer default to the herd's question, "What is the right thing to do?" Instead, you consult your constitution and ask, what action is most aligned with my code? What decision will make me stronger, more authentic, more masterful? What choice affirms my life and my power? This shifts the entire locus of moral responsibility from the external world to your own conscience. For example, the herd morality might demand that you stay in a secure, soul-crushing job because it is the responsible thing to do. Your own code, valuing authenticity and impact, might command you to leave and pursue a riskier path that aligns with your mission. The herd will call you irresponsible. You will know you are being profoundly responsible to your own highest self. This is the essence of moving beyond good and evil. You are not choosing evil over good. You are operating on a different plane of evaluation altogether, where the simplistic categories of the herd no longer apply. Your morality is not based on pleasing a god or a group. It is based on the objective of your own flourishing. This is the morality of the Übermensch, the being who has overcome the need for external validation and creates his own sun to live by. This self-mastery inevitably transforms your relationship with others. You stop judging people by the herd standards and start evaluating them by the quality of their character and the strength of their will. You are not easily offended because you do not grant others the power to define what is offensive to you. You are not quickly swayed by moral panics or social media outrage because you possess your own calm center of moral gravity. You begin to attract individuals of similar strength and sovereignty, and you naturally repel those who seek to manipulate through guilt, shame, or the tyranny of should. You engage in relationships as a conscious choice, not a desperate need, seeking partners and allies who respect your code and challenge you to become greater. Becoming the master of your values is the final internal liberation. It severs the last and most insidious chain that binds you to the herd, the chain of their morality. With your own compass in hand, you are now truly free to navigate the world. You are no longer a reactor, buffeted by the moral winds of the crowd. You are a causal force, a sovereign entity moving with purpose and power, guided by a star of your own creation. The fortress of the self is now complete. The final step is to learn the art of living dynamically within it, to master the practice of constant self-overcoming. This is the work of forging the 21st century Übermensch. The architecture of your new self is now in place. You have diagnosed the sickness of the last man, rediscovered the roaring engine of your will to power, and forged a personal moral compass that points true north to your own highest potential. You stand within the fortress of your own sovereignty, no longer a slave to external validation or herd morality. But this is precisely where the most common and most tragic failure occurs. A man builds this fortress only to then become its prisoner. He mistakes the structure for the destination. He settles into his new identity, the strong man, the sovereign individual, the master of his values, and begins to worship the walls he has built. This is the great paradox of growth. Every achievement contains within it the seed of a new stagnation. Every victory can become a tombstone. Nietzsche's solution to this paradox is the relentless, eternal practice of self-overcoming. This is the fourth and most dynamic component of the formula. You must become your own ongoing project. The sovereign individual does not seek a state of being, he thrives in a state of perpetual becoming. He understands that the ultimate expression of the will to power is not to conquer others, but to continuously conquer the person you were yesterday. The moment you say, "I have arrived," you have begun to die. The art of self-overcoming is the conscious, willed, and joyful murder of your present self, carried out by the future self you are destined to become. This begins with a radical shift in your relationship with your own identity. Most people cling to their identity with a desperate fear. Their profession, their political beliefs, their social role, these become pillars of their selfhood, and to challenge them is to threaten the entire structure. The practitioner of self-overcoming holds his identity lightly, with a sense of playful contempt. He sees his current self not as a monument to be defended, but as a prototype to be tested, broken, and improved upon. The trophies of your past successes are not relics to be revered. They are corpses of battles you have already won, evidence of selves you have already slain and left behind. To be defined by them is to live in a museum of your own life. The goal is to use your achievements as a springboard, a platform to launch yourself toward the next greater challenge. Your past is a ladder you are always kicking away after you have climbed it. This requires what we can call prototype thinking. You must learn to see yourself as a series of iterative versions. Version 1.0 was the last man. Version 2.0 awakened to his will to power. Version 3.0 forged his own values. Who is version 4.0? What weaknesses remain? What new territories of potential must be explored? This framework transforms personal growth from a vague aspiration into a systematic engineering problem. You are both the scientist and the experiment. The practical discipline of self-overcoming is a daily practice of voluntary disintegration. You must systematically seek out experiences that shatter your current competencies and force you to rebuild yourself stronger. Comfort is the enemy. Familiarity is the cage. You must become a connoisseur of constructive discomfort. This means deliberately challenging your deepest competencies. Are you a brilliant public speaker? Then, force yourself to speak on a topic you know nothing about in front of a hostile audience. The feeling of incompetence and awkwardness is the feeling of your old speaker self dying, making way for a new, more adaptable version. Are you a master in your professional field? Then, deliberately step into an arena where you are a novice, a beginner, a fool. Learn a complex new language. Study a field of science that is utterly alien to you. Take up a musical instrument. The goal is to regularly feel the vertigo of not knowing, because it is in that state of cognitive dissonance that all real neural growth occurs. The herd seeks to hide its incompetence. The sovereign individual hunts his own down and exposes it to the light so he can execute it and grow beyond it. This process extends to your belief structures. You must practice intellectual arson. What are the beliefs you hold most dearly? Your political worldview, your philosophy of relationships, your approach to health and fitness? Your task is to find the most intelligent, articulate, and formidable proponents of the opposing view and immerse yourself in their arguments. Do not do this with the secret intention of debating them or finding flaws. Do it with the sincere goal of being converted. Force your mind to contort itself, to see the world through a lens that is fundamentally antagonistic to your own. The goal is not necessarily to change your mind permanently, but to shatter the brittle certainty of your current mindset. A belief that has not survived a serious attempt at its own annihilation is not a belief worth holding. It is a prejudice. This intellectual self-overcoming ensures that your mind remains a dynamic, living weapon and not a dusty library of inherited and unexamined dogmas. Perhaps the most painful and therefore most necessary application of self-overcoming is in the realm of your relationships. As you change, as you overcome yourself and become someone new, you will inevitably outgrow people. The friends who were your companions in mediocrity will become uncomfortable with your growth. Your transformation will hold up a mirror to their own stagnation, and they will not thank you for it. A romantic partner who fell in love with a weaker, more dependent version of you may find the new sovereign individual you are becoming to be intimidating and unfamiliar. The art of self-overcoming demands the courage to let these relationships die a natural death. You must resist the desperate, herd-driven instinct to cling to them, to shrink yourself back down to a manageable size to make others comfortable. To cling to old connections that bind you to a former, lesser self is a form of spiritual suicide. It is a betrayal of your own becoming. You must have the strength to say a silent, internal goodbye, to grieve if you must, and then to walk on, trusting that the new you will inevitably attract a new tribe, a new circle of individuals operating on a similar frequency of power and growth. The art of self-overcoming is not a painless process. It is a series of little deaths. It feels at times like disintegration. There will be periods of profound confusion and disorientation where the old maps you used to navigate the world no longer match the new territory you are exploring. This confusion is not a sign you are off course. It is the surest sign that you are on the true course of transformation. The herd, in its desperate quest for comfort, seeks only clarity and certainty. The sovereign individual learns to thrive in the fertile, chaotic void of his own becoming. He understands that this chaos is the raw material of creation. The ultimate goal is to make this process of self-overcoming your default state of being, to make the ecstasy of perpetual rebirth the central joy of your existence. You wake up each morning not as a fixed entity, but as a question mark. You look in the mirror and ask not, "Who am I?" but the far more dangerous and powerful question, "Who must I kill today to become who I am meant to be?" This is the unending path. There is no final victory parade, only the eternal, glorious, and violent joy of the climb itself. You are not building a statue, you are conducting a symphony of becoming, and the music is the sound of your own limits shattering. Now, with this dynamic practice in place, you are ready for the final synthesis, the integration of all these principles into the daily life of the 21st century Übermensch. The journey through diagnosis, awakening, moral self-creation, and the art of self-overcoming has provided the core components of the Nietzschean transformation. Now arrives the final, most critical phase, the synthesis. This is where theory must become being, where philosophy must become physiology. The Übermensch is not a theoretical concept to be discussed. He is a living reality to be embodied. He is the man who has integrated these principles so completely that they become his unconscious competence, his default mode of engagement with the world. He does not try to be sovereign, he is sovereignty in motion. This final part of the formula is the integration protocol, a practical, daily system for forging the 21st century Übermensch, a being capable of thriving in the chaos of modernity while remaining unshakably true to his self-authored purpose. The protocol begins each morning with what we will call the sovereignty ritual. The first moments of consciousness are a psychological battleground. Before the world can impose its agenda, before the digital dopamine hits begin, you must claim your mental territory. This is a non-negotiable 15-minute practice. It starts with 5 minutes of silent, powerful affirmation. You declare to yourself, not as wishful thinking, but as a statement of fact. Today, my will is the ultimate authority. Today, I will not seek validation. Today, I will embrace resistance as my fuel. Today, my actions will be aligned with my code. This is cognitive priming of the highest order. Following this, you engage in voluntary discomfort, a cold shower, a demanding series of physical exercises, a period of fasting. This is not masochism. It is a physiological command to your entire system that comfort is not your master. It proves, before you have even had breakfast, that you are in command of your body and your mind. You start the day by having already won a victory over entropy and inertia. As you move into your day, the protocol shifts to conscious engagement. This is the application of the threefold filter to every significant interaction and decision. Before speaking, before committing, before reacting, you run the situation through 3 questions born from the previous principles. First, does this express my will to power? Does it represent growth, strength, and expansion? Second, is this free from the herd mentality? Am I doing this for authentic reasons or for approval? Third, is this aligned with my self-authored values? Does it reflect my personal constitution? This mental triage, practiced until it becomes automatic, transforms you from a reactive creature into a strategic actor. In conversations, you listen to understand, not merely to reply. In conflicts, you respond from principle, not from emotion. In your work, you pursue mastery, not just completion. You become a black hole for manipulation. Attempts to provoke you, guilt you, or shame you are met with an unnerving calm, because your self-worth is no longer tethered to external opinion. It is grounded in the unshakable foundation you have built through this very protocol. The culmination of each day is the evening audit of becoming. This is not a review of what you did, but of who you were in the process. In a period of quiet reflection, you assess your performance against your own sovereign standards. Where did you excel? Where did you falter and succumb to weakness or reactivity? This is a tactical debriefing, not a trial. The goal is to extract data for tomorrow's evolution. Did you avoid a difficult conversation? That is data on a lingering fear to be confronted. Did you hold your frame under pressure? That is evidence of growing strength to be acknowledged. This audit closes the loop of daily self-overcoming. It turns experience into wisdom and effort into evolution. It ensures that every day, no matter how challenging, contributes to the continuous process of your becoming. The final layer of the protocol is legacy projection. The Übermensch does not live for the day. He lives for the centuries. He thinks in terms of legacy. Once a week, you must step back and view your life from this elevated perspective. Ask yourself, if I continue on my current path, what mark will I leave? What will I have created, built, or changed? Is my life a story worth telling? This practice prevents you from getting lost in the minutiae of daily self-overcoming and connects your actions to a transcendent purpose. It ensures that your sovereignty is not an end in itself, but a means to contribute something unique and powerful to the world. The 21st century Übermensch is not a solitary hermit on a mountain. He is a force in the world, a creator, a commander of reality. He has moved through the stages of the formula. He diagnosed the sickness of the modern soul, awakened his dormant will to power, created a moral code beyond good and evil, mastered the art of self-overcoming. And now, through this integration protocol, he lives these principles every day. He is calm amidst chaos because he generates his own order. He is powerful without being oppressive because his power is directed inward first, toward self-mastery. He is free because he has chosen the laws he obeys. This is the end of the beginning. The formula is complete. The tools are in your hands. The path is laid before you. Now, the work, the glorious, difficult, and meaningful work is yours. Go forth and forge yourself.